You know, there are calls after which life is divided into before and after. I received that call at 3 in the morning. The phone rang so sharply that I jumped in bed, my heart pounding. The name flashed on the screen. Matt. My grandson. A 16-year-old kid who never called me at night. I grabbed the receiver. Matt? What happened? I heard ragged breathing on the line, then his voice, trembling, scared, sounding nothing like my grandson. Grandma. I'm at the police station. My blood ran cold. Where? What did you say? Matt spoke quickly, the words tripping over each other. I'm at the Highland precinct. Hey. Vanessa hit me with a candlestick. A silver one. And now she says that I pushed her down the stairs. Dad believes her. He thinks I'm guilty. Grandma, please come. I'm scared. He almost whispered the last words, and I heard something in his voice I hadn't heard in years. Childlike terror. The kind when a child realizes that the adults who are supposed to protect him are suddenly on the other side of the barricades. I didn't even answer. I just hung up, threw on the first thing I could find, and 5 minutes later I was flying in my old car through the night city. Thoughts were racing like birds in a cage. Vanessa. That 36-year-old beauty my son Andrew brought home 2 years ago. I felt immediately that something was wrong with her. Smiles too sweet, eyes too cold. But Andrew was in love. No, he was obsessed. After the death of his first wife, Matt's mother, he seemed to lose himself. And Vanessa appeared in his life like a lifeline. Only I didn't understand then that this lifeline had thorns. But before we continue, please write what city you are from. It is important for us to know where our stories reach. I knew the Highland precinct like the back of my hand. And why wouldn't I? I worked in the police force for 37 years. For the last 10, I was the captain of this very precinct. I retired 5 years ago, but they remembered my name there. Mrs. Martha Sullivan. A legend, as the young ones said. I didn't like pompous words, but that night I hoped my name still meant something. I burst into the station like a hurricane. A young officer, about 25, was sitting at the front desk, leafing through some papers. Seeing me, he jumped up. Hello, how can I help you? My grandson was brought to you. Matthew Sullivan. Where is he? The guy frowned and looked into the computer. Yes, he's here. But who are you to him? His grandmother. Mrs. Martha Sullivan. He froze. He raised his eyes to me, wide open. Sullivan, the captain of the precinct. The very same, I nodded briefly. Take me to the boy. Now. My tone wasn't pleading. It was commanding. The same tone I once used to make even notorious thugs lower their eyes. The guy jumped up so abruptly he almost knocked over his chair. Yes, of course. I'll call Captain Robert Miller. He is the precinct captain now. He remembers you. A minute later, Robert stood before me. A man of about 50 with graying hair and tired but intelligent eyes. He used to work under my command. A good detective, honest. There are few like him these days. Mrs. Sullivan. He shook my hand. I didn't expect to see you in a situation like this. Robert, where is my grandson? And what is going on here? He sighed heavily and nodded toward his office. Let's go and talk. The situation is complicated. We went into the office. Robert closed the door and gestured for me to sit. I remained standing. Tell me, I demanded. Robert sat at the table and rubbed the bridge of his nose. Tonight, around 11, a woman came to us. Vanessa Sullivan. She claims that her stepson, your grandson Matt, attacked her. Pushed her down the stairs. She has bruises on her arms and abrasion on her cheek. She demands to file charges. Says the boy is aggressive and uncontrollable. I felt everything inside me tighten into a tight knot. And what does Matt say? Matt claims the opposite. Says she hit him with a silver candlestick. He showed a bump on the back of his head. I examined it. Indeed, there is a hematoma. Fresh. The boy says she regularly humiliates him, breaks things, and his father believes her in everything. And you don't believe him? My voice sounded quiet. Too quiet. Robert knew this tone. It was the calm before the storm. Mrs. Sullivan, I'm not saying I don't believe him. I'm saying the situation is complicated. Two people, two opposite stories. The boy is a minor, but he is 16. At his age, outbursts of aggression happen. On the other hand, Vanessa also has injuries. Where are the cameras? I asked sharply. There must be surveillance cameras in the house. Robert looked away awkwardly. They aren't working. Vanessa said the system broke down 3 days ago. They were planning to call a technician. How convenient. Mrs. Sullivan. Where is my grandson? In the interrogation room. With his father. They are talking. I turned around and headed for the door. Robert didn't stop me. He knew it was useless. I walked down the corridor and with every step rage grew inside me. Cold, rational rage. The kind that once made me the best investigator in the city. The cameras aren't working. Yeah, right, of course. No witnesses. Convenient. She has bruises and the boy has a bump on the back of his head. But she's believed more. Because she is an adult? Because she is a wife? Or because she knows how to act? I threw open the door to the interrogation room. There were 3 people sitting there. Matt, my son Andrew, and another officer who was writing something down. Matt sat hunched over, his eyes red, his face gaunt. Seeing me, he jumped up. Grandma. I hugged him. Tightly. I felt him trembling. Everything will be fine, I whispered in his ear. I promise. Then I looked up at Andrew. My son sat turned away toward the window. His shoulders were tense, his jaw clenched. He didn't even look at me. Andrew, I called. He turned slowly. His face was stone. Mom, don't. I know what you're going to say. But you don't understand the situation. I don't understand? I felt my voice beginning to tremble with anger. Your son is accused of assault. He has a bump on his head. He is sitting in a police station at 3 in the morning and you say I don't understand? Vanessa isn't lying. Andrew stood up. Matt has become aggressive in recent months. He is rude to her, slams doors, doesn't listen. I tried to talk to him but he won't make contact. And today he what? I interrupted. Pushed her? Seriously? Your son who wouldn't hurt a fly. People change, Mom. Andrew looked somewhere past me. He took his mother's death hard. Perhaps he needs professional help. I looked at him for a long time. And for the first time in many years I didn't recognize my son. This man with dead eyes and an indifferent voice. This is not my Andrew. This is someone else. Someone who is being manipulated. Someone who has been broken. Fine, I said quietly. Then I'm taking Matt to my place. Tonight. Andrew frowned. Mom. Don't argue with me. I'm taking him under my responsibility. Robert will process the paperwork. And tomorrow you and I will talk calmly. But tonight my grandson is going home. With me. I turned around without waiting for an answer. Took Matt by the hand. Let's go, grandson. Half an hour later we were driving to my house. Matt was silent, looking out the window. I was silent too. But inside, the puzzle pieces had already begun to fall into place. Cameras aren't working. Son blindly believes his wife. The boy is terrified. This isn't a family quarrel. This is something else. Something terrible. And I felt, if I don't figure it out, it will be too late. At home, I sat Matt on the sofa, covered him with a blanket and placed a cup of hot tea with honey in front of him. He clasped the cup with both hands as if trying to warm himself, even though the apartment was warm. I sat down next to him, put my hand on his shoulder. Tell me, I said quietly. Everything. From the very beginning. Matt was silent for a long time. Stared into the cup, his lips trembling. Then he looked up at me and I saw so much pain in his eyes that my heart clenched. Grandma, I don't know where to start. It's like a nightmare that has been going on for 2 years. Start from the moment Vanessa appeared in your lives. He nodded, took a sip of tea. At first she was normal. Even nice. He brought me gifts, asked about school, smiled. Dad was glowing. Thought, well, okay, maybe this is good. Maybe he really needs a new wife. Mom died and he suffered so much. I wanted him to be happy again. Matt's voice trembled on the last words. I squeezed his shoulder tighter. And then what happened? Then they got married. And literally the next day everything changed. She became different. As if she took off a mask. He started picking on every little thing. Said I was eating wrong, sitting wrong, walking too loudly. If I forgot to wash a plate, she threw a tantrum. Said I was ungrateful, that Dad spent his whole life on me and I couldn't even keep basic order. Did she speak like that in front of your father too? No. Matt shook his head. In front of Dad she was an angel. She was always stroking my head, telling Dad, "What a wonderful son you have. I'm so glad we'll be such a friendly family." But as soon as Dad left for work, Grandma, she turned into a monster. He fell silent and I saw a tear roll down his cheek. Matt brushed it away angrily as if he was mad at himself for the weakness. "Go on, honey. I'm here." She started breaking my things. At first, accidentally. She dropped my model airplane that I had been assembling for 3 months. Smashed to smithereens. She said, "Oh, sorry, didn't notice." But I saw her eyes. She was happy. Then she accidentally spilled coffee on my essay I had been working on for a week. Accidentally threw away my sneakers, saying they were old. Even though they were new, Mom gave them to me 6 months before she died. He almost whispered the last words. I felt rage boiling inside me but held it back. Right now Matt didn't need my rage, he needed my support. "Did you try to tell your father?" "I tried." Matt's voice broke into a scream. "Many times. But she always twisted everything. She told Dad that I break everything myself and then blame her. That I can't accept her as a new mom. That I'm jealous of Dad. And you know what the scariest part is? Dad believed her. Always. He told me, 'Matt, I understand it's hard for you. But Vanessa means well. He loves you. You shouldn't react like that.' He didn't see anything at all." I listened, and with every word something inside me broke. My grandson, this smart, kind boy, had been living in hell for 2 years. And his father, my son, was so blind that he didn't see the obvious. By the way, I want to warn you in advance. At the end of this story, a revelation about Vanessa awaits you that you simply won't believe. What she did before this, who she really is. It will shock you to the core. So be sure to watch until the end. "Tell me about the basement," I asked. "You said she locked you in the basement." Matt turned pale. His fingers on the cup went white. "That was 6 months ago. Dad went on a business trip for a week. We were left alone with her. I came home from school, wanted to eat. Opened the fridge and there was nothing. At all. He threw everything away." I asked, "Vanessa, what's for dinner?" She looked at me and smiled. With such a nasty smile. And said, "Nothing. You'll starve. Maybe you'll learn to appreciate what your father does for you." I couldn't stand it, stood up and paced the room. My hands were shaking. I clenched them into fists, forcing myself to calm down. "And what did you do?" I tried to leave. I wanted to go to the store, buy something with my allowance. But she stood in the doorway. She said, "You're not going anywhere. Stay home." I tried to walk past her and then Matt's voice trembled. She grabbed me by the arm and dragged me to the basement. "We have this small storage room there. Cold, dark." She shoved me in there and locked the door. She said, "Sit here and think about your behavior." "How long were you in there?" 5 hours. I screamed, banged on the door. Then I just sat in the corner and cried. When she finally opened it, she said, "If you tell your father, next time it will be worse. And he'll believe me anyway, not you." I returned to the sofa, hugged my grandson. He buried his face in my shoulder and cried. Quietly, stifled, the way boys cry when they try to be strong. "She didn't do that again," he whispered through tears. But every time Dad left, I was scared. Scared that she would again. "Grandma, I'm so tired of being afraid." "I know, honey. I know." We sat like that for a while. Then Matt calmed down, pulled away, wiped his eyes. "But that's not all," he said quietly. "I heard the scariest thing 3 days ago." I became alert. "What did you hear?" Matt looked me in the eye. "I accidentally overheard her phone conversation. She was talking to someone. I don't know who. But she said she would soon get rid of the kid. That the old woman won't last long either, and then Andrew will inherit all the property. And she'll sell your apartment, Grandma. Your apartment which you bought with your pension. She said, 'This area is good. They'll give at least $850,000 for a 3-bedroom. The blood drained from my face. I looked at my grandson and the world around seemed to sway. Are you sure? You definitely heard that. I swear. I recorded everything on my phone, but today when she attacked me I dropped the phone. Shattered. Now there's no proof. I stood up. Paced the room. Thoughts raced, lining up in a chain. Get rid of the kid. The old woman won't last. Selling the apartment. Inheritance. This isn't just domestic violence. This isn't just psychological pressure. This is a criminal scheme. Calculated, cold. And Matt is not just a victim of an abuser. He is an obstacle to money. I stopped, looked at my grandson. Matt, and what happened today? How did you get that bump? He touched the back of his head, winced. I came home from school. Vanessa was alone. She started yelling at me that I dragged dirt on the floor. I tried to walk past, but she stood in the way. I said, "Move, please." And she grabbed a silver candlestick from the table and hit me on the head. I fell. She stood over me and said, "Time to end this show. I'm tired of you." Then she took the phone and called Dad. Cried into the receiver, said that I pushed her down the stairs, that she was afraid of me. I lay on the floor, couldn't move from pain and shock. And she stood nearby and smiled. She purposefully scratched her cheek with her nails, hit her hand against the wall to make bruises. All before my eyes. "And your father came?" "Yes." He didn't even look at me properly. Just said, "Get dressed, we're going to the police." I tried to explain, but he didn't listen. Said I had aggression issues and stop lying. I sat back down, took my grandson's hands. "Matt, listen to me carefully. What you told me is very serious. This is not just a family conflict. Vanessa is dangerous. And I won't let her hurt you. Understood?" "No way." He nodded, hope appearing in his eyes. "Do you believe me?" "Every word," I said firmly. "And do you know why? Because I worked in the police for 37 years. I saw hundreds of criminals. And I see a lie from a mile away. You are not lying. But Vanessa, she is a professional. She knows what she's doing. But she doesn't know one thing, who she messed with." I stood up, walked to the window. The city outside was asleep. Rare lights burned in the windows of houses. I looked at those lights and thought, 37 years in the police taught me not only to catch criminals. They taught me to think like them. To plan ahead. To look for evidence. To build a case. And now, standing by this window at 4 in the morning, I realized I would have to become Captain Sullivan again. Not a grandmother, not a pensioner. The captain. Because my grandson's life was at stake. I took the phone, found the right name in the contacts. Nancy. My former partner. The best detective I ever worked with. Now she was a private investigator. If anyone could help, it was her. I dialed the number. After the third ring, a sleepy voice was heard. "Martha? Do you know what time it is?" "Nancy, I need your help. Urgently. Concerns my grandson. I think. No, I am sure. We are dealing with a professional criminal. And I need to expose her before it's too late." Pause. Then Nancy's voice, now alert, collected. "Send the address. I'll be there in an hour." I hung up and turned to Matt. He looked at me with wide open eyes. "Grandma, what are you planning?" I smiled. For the first time on this terrible night. "I plan to bring back justice, my boy. And show this Vanessa that she shouldn't have messed with the Sullivan family." Nancy appeared exactly an hour later. She knocked on the door with 3 short raps. Our old identification signal from the days when we were partners. I opened it and she entered, energetic, collected, with a small briefcase in her hand. 65 years old, gray hair gathered in a strict bun, a sharp look in her brown eyes. Nancy Peterson hadn't changed a bit. Except maybe there were more wrinkles. "Well, show me the victim," she said instead of a greeting. Matt was sitting on the sofa, still wrapped in a blanket. Nancy walked over, sat down next to him, carefully examined his head. "A good bump," she stated. "The blow was strong. Lucky it's not a concussion. We need to photograph it, document it. Martha, do you have a camera? Will a phone do?" "It will do. Shoot from all angles with a ruler nearby so the size is visible." And document the bruises on his arms too. I took out my phone, started taking pictures. Matt silently offered his head, rolled up his sleeves. There were distinct finger marks on his wrists. Vanessa squeezed hard when she dragged him to the basement 6 months ago. The old bruises were gone, but new ones appeared today when she grabbed him. Nancy meanwhile took a voice recorder and a notebook out of the briefcase. Matt, now I will record your testimony. Officially. Do you understand? Everything you say can be used as evidence. Speak slowly, clearly, don't rush. And most importantly, speak only the truth. Not a drop of exaggeration, nothing extra. Facts. Only facts. Matt nodded and started telling the story. Everything he told me, but now more structured under Nancy's careful guidance. She asked questions, clarified details, wrote them down. When Matt got to the moment with the overheard phone conversation, Nancy became alert. Repeat that again, she asked. Word for word what she said. Matt tensed up, remembering. She said, I'll get rid of the kid soon. The old woman won't last long either. Andrew will inherit everything, will sell the apartment in the center. It will go for at least $850,000. Then we'll arrange everything properly with George and I'll be free. Nancy stopped, looked up from the notebook. George? Did she name a name? Yes, George. I remember exactly because it wasn't the first time she mentioned that name. Nancy looked at me. In her look I read the same thing I felt myself. This is a thread. A lead. Matt, you did a good job, Nancy said. You helped a lot. Now go rest. You need to get some sleep. When Matt went to the room, Nancy and I stayed in the kitchen. She poured herself some tea, sat opposite me. Martha, this smells like big trouble, she said quietly. This Vanessa, she isn't just a domestic tyrant. It's all done too professionally. Inflicted bruises on herself, cameras, accidentally, don't work, no witnesses. And this phone conversation about money, inheritance, about some George. What are you thinking? I asked, although I already guessed. I think we need to dig into her past. Biography, previous relationships, finances. If she is a professional, it means she has a history. People don't become like this overnight. How much time do you need? Nancy thought for a moment. Give me 2 days. I have contacts in the records office, the IRS, and the banks. I'll dig up everything I can. Meanwhile, keep Matt with you. Don't let him go to his father under any circumstances. Don't even worry, I won't. Nancy left at dawn. I put Matt to sleep in my room and sat in the armchair in the living room myself. I couldn't sleep. Thoughts swirled, formed into theories, crumbled, gathered again. Vanessa. A young, beautiful woman marries a widower with a child and money. Manipulates, controls, beats the child, plans a murder. Why? For the apartment? For Andrew's inheritance? But why so confidently? Why so professionally? The answer came 2 days later. Nancy called in the evening. Martha, sit down. What I'm about to tell you will shock you. I sat down. Speak. Vanessa King, 36 years old. Born in Cleveland, Ohio. Has been married 4 times, including to your son. 4 times. I couldn't hold back an exclamation. 4. And here is the most interesting part. First husband, Richard Lewis. A businessman, owner of a chain of stores. Married Vanessa in 2015. Died a year later from a heart attack. He was only 42 years old. Before that, he was absolutely healthy. Vanessa inherited all his property, almost $500,000, and an apartment in New York. I listened and cold spread through my veins. Second husband, Stephen Cole. Also a businessman, this time in IT. Married in 2017. A year and a half later, Stephen fell down the stairs. At home. The surveillance cameras weren't working. Broken neck. Vanessa again inherited everything. $1.5 million and a country house. Oh God. Third husband, Isaac Baker. Owner of a construction company. Married in 2019. Isaac had a son from his first marriage, Paul. The boy was 20 years old. A year after the wedding, Paul disappeared. Or rather, according to the official version, went to study abroad. But Martha, I found Paul. He lives in London. I called him. He told me terrible things. Vanessa threatened him, tried to arrange an accident. His father got him out of the country urgently, gave him money, asked him not to return. And then Isaac signed some documents and Vanessa got control over his finances. Isaac is still alive, but he is broken. Lives like a recluse. I couldn't speak. Just sat and listened to my world collapsing. And you know what the scariest thing is? Nancy continued. In all three cases, the same lawyer processed the documents. George Harper, 58 years old. Has his own firm, specializes in inheritance cases. And his reputation, let's say, isn't the cleanest. There are suspicions of forgery, but nothing has been proven. So they work together, I whispered. Looks like it. Vanessa marries rich men. If there are heirs, she either removes them or drives them out of the house. Then she organizes an accident with the husband, or drives him to such a state that he gives her everything voluntarily. George processes the documents and they split the money. A clean, practiced scheme. I stood up, paced the room. My hands were shaking. I clenched them into fists. And now her goal is my son and grandson. Exactly. Andrew is a successful businessman. He has money, real estate. Matt is an heir who is in the way. And you, Martha, own an apartment in the center. Vanessa plans to remove Matt, then you, then Andrew. Or drive Andrew to the point where he gives her everything himself. The classic Black Widow scenario. I stopped, looked out the window. Evening was falling. The city was lighting up. Somewhere out there in one of those houses sat Vanessa. Planning. Preparing. Thinking she won. But she didn't know one thing. I now know the truth. And I won't let her touch my family. Nancy, I said without turning around. We must catch her. With evidence, with a confession, so she goes to jail for a long time. Agreed. But we need a plan. And we need to act fast. If she senses we are digging, she might run. Or worse, speed up her plans. I turned, looked at my friend. I have an idea. But for this we will need Matt. And it will be dangerous. Nancy looked at me carefully. What are you planning? We will put hidden cameras on Matt. He will return to the house ostensibly to pick up things. And the cameras will record everything Vanessa says and does. If she really is who we think she is now, she won't hold back. She'll say something that will give her away. Nancy frowned. Martha, it's risky. If she snaps, she might hurt the boy. I know. But we have no other choice. Matt's words aren't enough. There is no recording, the phone is broken. We need new evidence. Direct, irrefutable. Nancy was silent for a long time. Then she nodded. Hey, I have the equipment. Microcameras that can be sewn into clothes. 2 of them. One on the chest, one on the back. The recording goes to the cloud in real time. Even if Vanessa takes his clothes, the recording will remain. Excellent. When can we start? Tomorrow. Let me prepare everything. And you talk to Matt. Explain what is required of him. And Martha, make sure he agrees. It's his decision. I nodded. Nancy left and I remained alone in the kitchen. Evening turned into night. I sat in the dark thinking about how fragile our life is, how easily evil can penetrate it, and how important it is to have the strength to stop this evil. The next morning I spoke with Matt. I told him everything I learned from Nancy. He listened, turning pale. When I finished, he was silent for a long time. Then he asked, "Grandma, did she really kill 2 people?" "We are almost certain of it. There is little proof, but everything points to yes." "And she wanted to kill me too?" "I'm afraid so." Matt nodded. His face became serious, almost adult. "Then I'll help. Tell me what I need to do." "Are you sure?" "It will be dangerous." "I'm sure. If I don't do this, she might kill Dad. Or you. Or someone else. I can't just sit and wait." I hugged my grandson. Tightly for a long time. My brave, strong boy. "Okay," I whispered. "Then tomorrow we begin the operation." The next morning Nancy arrived with a small black briefcase. She laid out tiny cameras on the table, no bigger than a button each, wires thin as threads. "I'll sew one into the jacket collar, the second one on the inside of the backpack," she explained, taking out a needle and thread. "Both cameras transmit a signal to the cloud. We will see everything in real time. If something goes wrong, Martha, I'll burst in there in 5 minutes. My car will be parked 2 blocks away. Matt stood silently, watching Nancy deftly sew the cameras into his clothes. I saw his hands trembling, though he tried not to show it. Matt, listen to me carefully, I said, sitting down next to him. You will go into the house, tell your father that you came to pick up your things. Behave calmly, don't provoke Vanessa. Just collect your clothes, textbooks. And most importantly, find that candlestick. It's crucial evidence. And what if she attacks me again? Don't get close to her. Keep your distance. If you sense danger, leave immediately. Got it? Your safety is more important than any evidence. Matt nodded. Nancy handed him a phone. Here, a U1. If anything happens, call us immediately. Don't be a hero. An hour later we pulled up to Andrew's house. A large cottage in a good neighborhood. I remembered how my son bought it, how proud he was, showing every room. Back then it was a dream house. Now a cage. Matt got out of the car. I saw him take a deep breath, straighten his shoulders. My brave boy. Nancy and I stayed in the car, turned on the tablet. An image from the cameras appeared on the screen. The quality was excellent, the sound clear. Matt rang the doorbell. Andrew opened it. His face was tired, gaunt. Matt? What are you doing here? Hi, Dad. I'm here for my things. Can I come in? Andrew was silent for a second, then nodded, stepped back. Matt entered the house. The camera showed the hall, the staircase, expensive wallpaper. Everything was as before. Only the atmosphere was different. Heavy, oppressive. Go quickly, take what you need, Andrew said dully. Vanessa is home, I don't want a scandal. Matt went up the stairs. Opened the door to his room, and I heard him gasp quietly. The camera showed a wreck. The poster on the wall was torn, bookshelves overturned, clothes lying on the floor. The desk was overturned. On the wall, written in red lipstick, "Get out of our lives." Oh God, I whispered. Matt walked further. Bent down, picked something up from the floor. The camera zoomed in. It was a photograph. His mother, smiling against the backdrop of the sea. The glass in the frame was shattered, the photo itself crushed. Heel marks were clearly visible. Matt clutched the photograph in his hands, and I saw a tear roll down his cheek. Matt, don't get distracted, Nancy said quietly into the microphone. Look for the candlestick. Matt wiped his eyes, looked around. Started carefully sorting through things on the floor. Looked under the bed. Then turned to the bedside table and froze. On the nightstand lay a silver candlestick. Massive, antique. There were dark stains on the base. Blood. Here it is, Matt whispered. He took out the phone Nancy gave him and started photographing the candlestick from all sides. And at that moment the door swung open. Vanessa stood on the threshold. Dressed in a silk robe, hair loose, a cold smile on her face. Well, look who's back, Mama's boy, she drawled, entering the room. Missed home. Matt took a step back. I'm just picking up my things. Your things. Vanessa laughed. There is nothing of yours here. This is my house. My husband. My life. And you are just a hindrance I will soon get rid of. Vanessa, move away, please. She stepped closer. Her eyes gleamed with a strange shine. Do you think your grandmother will protect you? That old hag? She'll kick the bucket soon herself. And then your daddy will sign everything I say. Like a good boy. They are all like that, weak, controllable. One word, one tear, and they are ready for anything. Vanessa, you are being recorded right now, Matt tried to warn her with a trembling voice. He just laughed. Recorded? Who cares? Your grandmother is nobody. A pensioner. An ex-cop who calls no shots anymore. And I have a lawyer. A good lawyer who knows how to make any recordings disappear. So record all you want. She walked right up to him, grabbed Matt by the chin and forced him to look into her eyes. Do you know what I'm going to do to you? I'll send you to a closed facility. For troubled teens. They'll teach you to obey there. And if they don't, well, accidents happen. Stairs are so steep, windows are so high. It's easy to fall. Let me go. I will. But remember, your days here are numbered. Just like your precious grandmother's. She has an apartment downtown, you know? People kill for real estate like that. But I won't even have to kill. I'll just wait. Old people die on their own. Especially when they get a little help. At that moment her phone rang. Vanessa let go of Matt and answered. George, hi. Some home. No, everything is going according to plan. The kid is hanging around but not for long. Are the documents ready? Excellent. As soon as the old hag signs the deed for the apartment, we can move forward. We'll sell it for $1 million, maybe more. Then we'll deal with Andrew. He's almost ready. A couple more months and he'll sign everything. And then, well, like it was with Richard. Fast, without unnecessary noise. She spoke calmly, casually, as if she were discussing buying groceries. Matt stood there, pale, pressed against the wall. Okay, see you tomorrow. No, Andrew doesn't suspect a thing. He's like a puppet. I say, jump, and he jumps. The perfect husband. She laughed. Yes, the fourth one. And the last. After him I'll have enough. Enough for a lifetime. She hung up and turned to Matt. Did you hear that? That's how it is, boy. It's called life. The smart survive, the stupid die. Your mother was stupid. Died of cancer, poor thing. Although, I sometimes wonder maybe I helped her a little. She smiled a terrifying smile. Just kidding, of course. Or not. Matt jerked toward the door. Vanessa blocked the way. Where's the rush? I'm not finished yet. And then Andrew walked into the room. His face was white. Vanessa, what were you just saying? She turned around, momentarily flustered, then smiled. Andrew, honey, you misunderstood everything. I was just scaring the boy so he wouldn't interfere anymore. You were talking about Richard. About my mother. About money. Andrew, darling. But Andrew had already turned away. His face was like a mask. He nodded to Matt. Go, son. Get out of here. Matt didn't need to be told twice. He grabbed his backpack, ran out of the room, flew down the stairs, and rushed out of the house. I saw on the tablet screen how he ran to our car. Nancy had already opened the door. Matt climbed into the back seat, breathing heavily. Is everything recorded? He asked. Every word, Nancy answered. You did great, boy. A real hero. I turned around and hugged my grandson. It's over, honey. It's all over. Now we have proof. That same evening, Nancy and I sat at my house reviewing the recordings. Threats, confessions, the conversation with George. Everything was documented. The sound quality was perfect, every word legible. We had enough to put Vanessa away. But something was missing. We need a full confession, Nancy said, leaning back on the sofa. What she told Matt is good. But a lawyer could wiggle out of it. Say she was just scaring a teenager. Emotions ran high. We need her to confess to everything herself. In front of witnesses. I poured myself some tea and thought. Vanessa is smart, cautious. She won't just say anything. We need bait. Something that will make her relax, make her feel like a winner. And then it hit me. Nancy, what if I surrender? What? I'll call Vanessa. Tell her I'm tired of fighting. That I'm ready to sign over the apartment, just so they leave my grandson alone. I'll invite her here along with this George. I'll say, come over, we'll settle everything quickly. Nancy narrowed her eyes. A trap. Exactly. My apartment will be stuffed with cameras. And the police will be waiting outside. When Vanessa starts celebrating her victory and relaxes, we'll catch her red-handed. Martha, that's risky. If she smells a rat. She won't. She's confident. She thinks I'm just an old woman who is afraid for her grandson. She already considers herself the winner. Nancy looked at me for a long time, then slowly nodded. Hey, I'll bring the cameras. We'll install them everywhere. In the chandeliers, in the books, in the photo frames. We'll warn Robert. Let him keep the team ready. As soon as we get a confession, they burst in. The next day I called Vanessa. I made my voice sound tired, broken. Vanessa, this is Mrs. Sullivan. I need to talk to you. Pause. Then her voice wary. I'm listening. I've been thinking a lot. About Matt, about Andrew, about the situation. I don't want any more conflicts. I'm tired. I'm 68 years old, I want peace. If you promise to leave Matt alone, I'm ready. Ready to sign over the apartment. To Andrew. Let it be his. And that means yours too. Silence. I could almost see her smiling. Seriously. Seriously. Come tomorrow evening. Bring your lawyer, let him draw up the documents. I'll sign. Just promise, don't touch Matt. Of course, Mrs. Sullivan. Of course. We'll come. Is 8 p.m. convenient? Convenient. I hung up. Nancy, sitting next to me, nodded approvingly. She took the bait. Now we prepare. We spent the entire next day turning my apartment into a trap. Nancy installed 6 microcameras. In the chandelier, in the wall clock, in the bookshelf, in the vase on the table. Each recorded both sound and image. Everything was uploaded to the cloud and was simultaneously broadcast to Robert in the car. The police were supposed to wait in the neighboring yard, 5 minutes away. I sent Matt to a neighbor's. Let him not see this. At 8 in the evening, the doorbell rang. I opened it. Vanessa stood on the threshold, in an expensive suit, high heels with flawless makeup. Next to her was a man of about 58, plump, in glasses, George Harper. He had a briefcase in his hands. Mrs. Sullivan, hello. Vanessa smiled broadly, falsely. Here, I brought George. He prepared everything. I think the issue will be closed in half an hour. Come in. I stepped back. They entered. George looked around, appraisingly looked at the walls, the furniture. Nice apartment, he remarked. About 1,000 square feet? 1,100. This costs a lot downtown. A lot. They sat at the table. George took out the documents, laid them out. So, a deed of gift in the name of Andrew Sullivan. You sign, I notarize it as a lawyer, then we register it in the Register of Deeds. Everything is clean, legal. I took the document, pretended to read. Then put it back on the table. And do you guarantee that you will leave Matt alone? Vanessa smiled even wider. Mrs. Sullivan, well, of course. I don't understand at all why you decided that I wish him harm. It was just a misunderstanding. A misunderstanding? I looked her in the eyes. You hit him with a candlestick. She was flustered for a second, then waved her hand. Well, emotions were high. The boy was rude. I snapped. It happens. And you gave yourself bruises out of emotion too? Vanessa fell silent. George coughed nervously. Mrs. Sullivan, maybe let's not dig up the past? Let's resolve the issue peacefully. I stood up, walked to the window. You know, Vanessa, I've thought a lot about you. Who you are. Where you came from. And do you know what I found out? Vanessa tensed. What did you find out? I turned, looked at her. That you were married 3 times before Andrew. Richard, Stephen, Isaac. They all died or lost everything. And you got the money. Silence. Vanessa slowly stood up. You dug into my past? I dug. I worked in the police for 37 years after all. Some skills remained. George grabbed his briefcase, jumped up. Vanessa, we need to go. But Vanessa didn't move. She looked at me and the smile on her face became wider and wider, more insane. So what? She suddenly asked. So you found out. And what will you do? Go to the police? Prove it first. I have the best lawyer. He closes any cases. Vanessa, shut up. George hissed. But she couldn't be stopped anymore. She stepped toward me. Do you think you're smart? Do you think I'll get scared? I don't give a damn. I did it 3 times and I always got away with it. Richard was naive, believed in a heart attack. And I just mixed what was needed into his pills. Stephen fell down the stairs. Yeah, I pushed him. With my own hands. And nothing happened to me. Because I know how to act. Tears, hysterics, helpless widow. Everyone buys it. Vanessa, that's enough. George tried to grab her arm, but she shoved him away. And Matt? That little brat? I would have gotten rid of him in a month if it weren't for you. You're in the way. But it doesn't matter, soon you won't be a hindrance either. Andrew will sign anything I say. He's loyal to me like a dog. He'll sign the deed, we'll sell the apartment, and I'll disappear. With the money. And let Andrew do what he wants. I don't care. I don't need him anymore. George grabbed her by the shoulders, shook her. What are you doing? You just confessed to everything. Vanessa laughed hysterically. So what? Who hears us? The old woman. Who's going to believe her? And at that moment the door opened. Nancy, Captain Miller, and 3 uniformed officers stood on the threshold. "We do," Robert said calmly. "We hear every word. Vanessa King, you are under arrest on suspicion of murder, fraud, and making threats to life. You have the right to remain silent." Vanessa's face twisted. She rushed to the door, but the officers intercepted her. "Put handcuffs on her." George tried to run, but Nancy tripped him. He fell and they restrained him too. Vanessa screamed, struggled. "This is a setup. This is illegal. You have no right." "We do." I walked right up to her. "Everything is recorded. Every word of yours. Cameras, sound, witnesses. You lost Vanessa. They took her away. They took George away." I remained standing in the middle of the apartment and only now felt my legs trembling. Nancy caught me by the arm. "Martha, you did it. Well done." I nodded. There were no tears. Only fatigue. Huge, all-consuming. But behind it, relief. Matt is safe. Vanessa won't hurt anyone else. 3 months flew by like one long exhale. And here we stood in front of the courthouse. Me, Matt, Nancy. November turned out cold, the wind ruffled the hems of our coats, but I hardly felt it. All attention was riveted to these high doors, behind which Vanessa's fate was being decided. The courtroom was full. I looked around, recognized the relatives of Richard, Vanessa's first husband. An elderly woman in black, that's his mother. Next to her, his brother with his wife. A little further sat Stephen's relatives. And in the corner, apart from everyone, a young guy of about 23. Paul, the son of Isaac, the third husband. He flew in from London specifically to testify. Our eyes met, he nodded. In his eyes I saw the same thing I felt myself. A thirst for justice. They brought Vanessa in. Handcuffs, prison uniform, hair pulled back. But even now she held herself with defiance. Chin up, gaze cold. Saw me and smiled. With that same nasty smile that sent chills down my skin. They brought George in after her. He was broken, shoulders slumped, face gray, gaze on the floor. The lawyer who helped kill all his life now found himself in the dock. The judge entered, a woman of about 50, strict, with attentive eyes. She looked around the room, banged the gavel. "Case number." She read the number. "Defendants, Vanessa King and George Harper. Charges. 2 counts of murder, attempted murder, large-scale fraud, threats to life, document forgery. Prosecutor, you may begin." The prosecutor stood up, a man of about 45 with a folder of documents. He spoke clearly to the point. "Your Honor, we will present evidence that Vanessa King has systematically married wealthy men over the past 10 years with the aim of seizing their property. In 2 cases this led to death. Richard Lewis died from poisoning with drugs mixed into his medication. Stephen Cole was killed by being forcibly pushed down the stairs. In both cases, Vanessa King inherited all the property." He turned on the projector. Documents appeared on the screen. Medical reports, financial statements, money transfers. Everything was laid out clearly. Then they turned on the video, the very one recorded in my apartment. Vanessa's voice sounded in the silence of the hall. Richard was a simpleton, believed in a heart attack. And I just mixed what was needed into his pills. Stephen fell down the stairs. Yeah, I pushed him. With my own hands. It became so quiet in the hall that breathing could be heard. Richard's mother covered her face with her hands and cried. His brother hugged her by the shoulders. The judge looked at Vanessa. "Defendant, is that your voice on the recording?" Vanessa jumped up. "It's a setup. I was provoked. That old hag set it all up." "Sit down," the judge said sternly. "One more outburst, I will remove you from the courtroom." Vanessa sat down, but her eyes were flashing lightning. Witness questioning began. They called me first. I got up, walked to the stand. The prosecutor asked questions, I answered. Told about my grandson's call, about the trip to the police station, about what I learned from Nancy's investigation. Told about the trap we set. Vanessa listened, and with every word of mine, her face became angrier. Then they called Matt. My grandson walked to the stand, holding himself straight. I was proud of him. He told everything. About the abuse, about the basement, about the candlestick, about overhearing the phone conversation. He spoke calmly without hysterics, and that is exactly why they believed him. When he finished, there was a long silence in the hall. They called Paul to the stand. He stood up, and his voice trembled when he began to speak. Vanessa appeared in my father's life when I was 20. First she was nice. Then she started turning my father against me. Said I was spending his money, that I didn't respect him. Father started trusting me less. And then strange things started happening. I got into accidents twice. Both were suspicious. The brakes failed. One time I almost fell off a balcony. The railing suddenly gave way. Father realized something was wrong. He got me out of the country urgently. Gave me money. Said, "Don't come back. She is dangerous." "And what became of your father?" asked the prosecutor. "He is alive. But he is broken. Lives alone. Signed all the documents she wanted. He has no more money, no business. Nothing. Vanessa took everything." Richard's brother told how Vanessa didn't even come to the funeral after his brother's death. How she sold his business in a week. How she disappeared without leaving even a phone number. Stephen's sister cried, telling how her brother called her the day before his death. Said he was scared. That Vanessa was behaving strangely. That he wanted a divorce. And the next day he fell down the stairs. The prosecutor presented recordings of phone conversations between Vanessa and George. Plans, schemes, discussions of documents. George tried to justify himself. "I didn't know she was killing them. I just processed the paperwork. It's my job." But the prosecutor showed bank statements. After every death, George received large sums. 25,000, 35, 40. A percentage of the loot. Vanessa remained silent. Sat with a stone face. And then, when the judge asked if she had anything to say, she suddenly stood up and laughed. "You are all so funny," she said loudly. "Sitting here judging. And what about you? You would do the same if you had brains." They were all weaklings. Richard, Stephen, Isaac, Andrew. All of them. One tear and they were ready to move mountains. Men, they are all the same. Stupid, controllable. And I just used their weakness. And you know what? I don't regret anything. Not a thing. The only thing I regret is that this old hag, she poked a finger at me, stuck her nose where it didn't belong. But it doesn't matter. I have a good lawyer. I'll get out. And then... "Then what?" interrupted the judge coldly. "Will you threaten witnesses right in the courtroom? Add another charge to the indictment. Threats in the courtroom." Vanessa was forced to sit down. She screamed, struggled. She was let out. The hall buzzed. George sat with his face buried in his hands. The court retired for deliberation. We waited 2 hours. Matt held my hand. In the corner of the hall I saw Andrew. He had come. He sat alone, his face in tears. Our eyes met. He looked away. The judge returned. Stood up. The hall froze. "The court finds Vanessa King guilty on all charges. Sentence: 25 years in a federal prison. Confiscation of all property. George Harper is found guilty of complicity. Sentence: 10 years in prison. Permanent revocation of his law license." The bang of the gavel. The hall exploded with applause. Richard's mother sobbed. Paul covered his face with his hands. Matt hugged me. "Grandma, you did it," he whispered. Vanessa was being led away. He turned around, looked at me. Shouted something, but I didn't catch it. And it didn't matter. She lost. When we walked out of the courthouse, Andrew approached us. His eyes were red, his face gaunt. Forgive me," his voice broke. "Forgive me. Matt, son, forgive me. I was a blind idiot. I almost lost you both." He didn't finish. Just fell to his knees right on the courthouse steps and cried. Sobbed. The way men cry when they can no longer hold back. Matt looked at me. I nodded. He walked up to his father, crouched down next to him. Hugged him. "Dad, get up. Everything will be fine." I walked over, put a hand on my son's shoulder. "Get up, Andrew. Let's go home." At home, the three of us sat at the table. I brewed tea, put a pie on the table, the very one Andrew loved in childhood. He sat with his head in his hands and was silent. Matt sat nearby, also silent. I waited. Andrew had to speak first. Finally, he raised his head. I don't know where to start, his voice raspy, broken. How to apologize for what I've done. I didn't believe my own son. Didn't see what was happening right under my nose. Allowed this woman to torture Matt for 2 years. 2 years, Mom. And I was in a fog. As if I wasn't living my own life. She manipulated you, I said quietly. Professionally. It's her job. Breaking people. But I'm a grown man. Andrew hit the table with his fist. I should have seen it. Should have protected my son. You should have, I agreed harshly. But you didn't. The question now is not that. The question is, what will you do next? Andrew looked at me, then at Matt. I want to fix everything. I don't know how, but I want to. Matt, son, tell me what to do. How can I earn back your trust? Matt was silent for a long time. He stared into his cup of tea. Then he said quietly, just be there. Be real. Not the dad she made you into, but the dad you were when Mom was alive. Tears streamed down Andrew's face. He nodded. I'll try. I promise. Promises aren't enough, I intervened. Andrew, you have to earn this trust. Every day. With every action. Matt will stay with me. You will come over, spend time with him. Gradually. When he's ready, then you'll decide how to live moving forward. But right now he needs space. And you need to sort yourself out. Andrew nodded. I've already signed up for a psychologist. I'll be going to therapy. I realized that after my first wife died, I never really processed the loss. I shut down. And then Vanessa appeared and I clung to her like a lifeline. I didn't see that it wasn't a lifeline. It was a trap. We sat, drank tea. For the first time in 2 years, we talked normally. Without screaming, without accusations. Just a family trying to glue the broken pieces back together. A month passed. Andrew came every weekend. At first not for long, for an hour or two. He and Matt talked. Gradually the ice melted. I saw Matt starting to smile. At first shyly, then more often. I saw Andrew changing, becoming calmer, more attentive, more real. One day Andrew came with news. I sold the house. Matt and I exchanged glances. The house where Vanessa lived. I clarified. Yes. I can't live there anymore. Every corner reminds me of her. Of what an idiot I was. Sold it. I'm buying an apartment. Smaller but full of light. I'm starting with a clean slate. That's right, I nodded. Matt nodded too. And for the first time in a long time, I saw something resembling hope in his eyes. Another 2 months passed. Matt was preparing for college applications. He sat over textbooks, wrote practice essays. One evening he said, Grandma, I've decided. I'm going to apply to law school. At the University of Chicago. I put down my book. Law? Are you sure? I'm sure. I want to become a lawyer. To defend kids who end up in situations like mine. So they don't have to be afraid that no one will believe them. I stood up, walked over and hugged him. Good for you, my boy. You will make an excellent lawyer. He smiled. You taught me to fight. Now I want to teach others. One morning the mailman brought a letter. I glanced at the envelope. Official, stamped. Sender. Federal Correctional Institution number. Vanessa. I opened it. Inside was a sheet of paper covered in uneven handwriting. Curses, threats, profanities. I'll get out and find you. You'll regret it. Die, you old hag. I read it and smiled. Tore up the letter. Threw it in the trash. Spring brought changes. Andrew met a woman. Helen. A doctor, 38 years old, with kind eyes and a quiet voice. A widow, she has a daughter. Sophie, 14 years old. Andrew brought her to us to meet. I watched Helen carefully. After Vanessa, it was hard to trust. But Helen was different. Sincere. She didn't flatter, didn't play games. She was just herself. She and Sophie came with a pie they had baked themselves. Sophie was shy but kind. She quickly made friends with Matt. It turned out they had shared interests. Books, movies. Mom, what do you think? Andrew asked quietly when Helen and the kids went to the kitchen. She's a good woman, I said. Don't rush. But she's good. Andrew exhaled with relief. Summer. Exam results. Matt burst into the apartment shouting. Grandma. I got in. University of Chicago. Law school. I made the cut. I hugged him, spun him around. My smart, strong boy. Everything he went through didn't break him. It made him stronger. Andrew arrived in the evening. We celebrated his acceptance. We sat as a foursome. Me, Andrew, Matt. Dr. Helen Foster and Sophie came too. We laughed, reminisced, made plans. Andrew took Matt's hand. Son, I am proud of you. Very proud. And I promise, I will never let you down again. Never. Matt squeezed his hand. I know, Dad. I looked at them and realized we made it. The family that was almost destroyed was together again. Different, changed, but together. And that is the main thing. In the evening, when everyone had left, I stood by the window and looked at the city. Lights, streets, life. Somewhere out there behind bars sat Vanessa, seething, plotting revenge. But her plans were destined never to come true. And we are living, breathing, loving. And that is our victory. 2 years flew by unnoticed. I sat in the park on my favorite bench and watched Matt walking toward me down the alley. Tall, confident, with a folder under his arm. A third-year student at the University of Chicago Law School. It was hard to believe that this strong young man was the same frightened boy who called me from the police station that terrible night. Grandma, why are you sitting here alone? He sat down next to me, smiled. Dad said you've been disappearing all day. I'm thinking, I answered. Remembering. Your father's wedding is coming up soon. Can you imagine? Matt nodded, his smile grew wider. I can imagine. Dad is happy. Truly. Helen is cool. And Sophie too. They are right. Yes, they were right. Helen didn't try to replace Matt's mom. She was just there, quietly, unobtrusively, with warmth. And Sophie became almost a sister to Matt. They studied for exams together, argued about books, laughed at movies. The wedding was modest but warm. A small restaurant, close friends, family. Andrew stood at the altar and smiled like he hadn't smiled in years. Helen was in a simple white dress with a bouquet of wild flowers. When they exchanged rings, I saw tears in my son's eyes. But these were the right tears. Tears of happiness. Matt was the best man. Sophie, the maid of honor. They stood side by side and I thought, here it is, our new family. Assembled piece by piece, but strong. At the reception, Andrew came up to me, hugged me. Mom, thank you. For everything. If it weren't for you. Hush, I interrupted. Today is your day. Be happy. He kissed me on the cheek and went to dance with his wife. I looked at them and realized he found his happiness. Real happiness. One day a stranger called me. Introduced herself as Mary, the niece of Richard, Vanessa's first husband. Mrs. Sullivan, I want to say thank you. Thanks to you, this woman got what she deserved. My uncle. He was a good man. He didn't deserve such a death. My family and I decided to open a foundation to help victims of domestic violence. And we want to name it after you. The Martha Sullivan Foundation. Do you mind? I couldn't speak for a few seconds. My throat tightened. I would be glad, I finally managed to say. Very glad. The foundation opened 2 months later. I came to the opening. There were people who were saved from abusers, children who were helped to escape dangerous families. They came up, thanked me, said that my story inspired them not to be silent, to fight. You showed that justice exists, said one young woman with a scar on her cheek. That you can defeat evil if you don't give up. I hugged her. We both cried. Spring came warm and sunny. We all gathered together. Me, Andrew with Helen, Matt, Sophie, Nancy came too. We had a picnic in the park under a big blossoming cherry tree. White petals fell on the grass, on the tablecloth, on our heads. It smelled of spring, hope, new life. Matt sat next to me chewing a sandwich. Then suddenly he rested his head on my shoulder as he used to do in childhood. Grandma, do you know what I'm thinking about? What, sunshine? I want to become as strong as you. You saved me. You weren't afraid, you didn't back down. You took charge and did the impossible. You showed me what it means to fight. For yourself, for family, for the truth. And I want to be the same. So that someday someone will say, Matthew Sullivan helped me. Saved me. I hugged my grandson. Tightly for a long time. You are already strong. You went through hell and didn't break. You survived. That is true strength. He smiled. You taught me that. We sat under the cherry tree and petals fell on us like white rain. I looked at my family, at my son who found himself again, at my grandson who became stronger, at Helen and Sophie who entered our lives as a gift, at Nancy, a loyal friend. And I understood, I won the most important battle of my life. The battle for the fate of my family. Vanessa wanted to destroy us. Wanted to steal, kill, wipe us off the face of the earth. But she didn't know one thing. A family built on love and trust is stronger than any evil. We survived the storm. And became only stronger. In the evening when everyone had left, I stood by the window and looked at the stars. I thought about how many families right now are living in fear. How many children are afraid to tell the truth. How many women and men endure abusers, thinking there is no way out. But there is a way out. Boys, you just need to not be silent. Fight. Believe that justice exists. And remember, dignity, love, and the strength of family conquer any evil. If this story touched your heart and you want to help us continue telling such stories, click this super thanks button. It's a little heart with a $sign under the video. Every time you do this, you help us create stories that inspire and remind people that justice exists, that you can fight and win. Thank you for staying with us until the end of this story. Write in the comments which moment touched you the most. Maybe it was Matt's call from the police station? Or the moment when Martha set a trap for Vanessa? Or maybe the finale when the family came together again. Subscribe and hit the bell icon so you don't miss new stories about strength, dignity, and love. Like if you believe that family and justice conquer any evil. And before you go, watch the story we left here on the screen. We are sure it will also make you think and touch your heart. Remember, never be silent if you or someone close to you is in danger. There is always a way out. There are always those who will help. Take care of yourself and your loved ones.